Welcome back to the S&T Football Podcast. We are going to continue talking about the draft steals of the 2026 NFL Draft. This is the fourth episode of this series, and we've talked about a lot of really good players that were taken in later rounds so far. Rounds 2 through 7, we're talking about positions outside of the quarterback position who were drafted in these rounds. So here's the next slate of guys that are going to be stars at the NFL level that flew a little bit under the radar in this past year's draft.
Draft coverage 2026, all 257 picks are in the books. Going to talk NFL draft reaches and steals.
So far in our episodes, we've talked about a few guys from this past year's national championship Indiana team, the Indiana Hoosiers, who won a national championship back in January over the Miami Hurricanes. And we've talked about a few players. I mean, of course, we got to start off with, Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback who went first overall. But other than that, we talked about Elijah Surratt, who was a receiver for Indiana, who went to the Ravens in the fourth round. We talked about Aiden Fisher, who was a linebacker for Indiana, who went in the seventh round to the Houston Texans. Omar Cooper, who was another receiver, he went in the late first round to the New York Jets. And then joining him on the New York Jets is another guy from Indiana, and he might be one of the best. He might be the best one yet that I believe, because he's a small guy and he has a heart of a lion. He plays bigger than what he is, coming in at 5'8", 182. D'Angelo Pons, cornerback out of Indiana. This guy's an absolute shutdown corner. He was shutting guys down this past season from Ohio State to Michigan to Oregon to Miami. It didn't matter who he went up against. This guy came into his own, and he played bigger than what he is. D'Angelo Pons was one of multiple guys that actually transferred over from James Madison. They started at James Madison alongside their coach, Mr. Curt Cignetti. And when he came over, took the job at Indiana, the head coaching job, he brought several players along with him, including guys like D'Angelo Pons, Aiden Fisher, as well as I believe Charlie Becker might have came over as well. And there was multiple guys that came over from that team. So that Indiana team was, the foundation was composed of multiple group of six type level players that were at a smaller school like James Madison and made the transition to the Big Ten, and obviously took over the Big Ten last season, went undefeated, national champions. I mean, that team, I don't know if you could say a team could outperform their roster's talent the way Indiana did. Like, if you look at the roster talent on this Indiana team this past season, they do not match up with teams like Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia. Not at all. Like, I believe Indiana had maybe one 5-star on their team this past season, and the rest were like 4 stars and under. Most of them were like 2 and 3 stars coming out of high school. But yet that was the team that went 13-0, absolutely destroyed Alabama, destroyed Oregon, and beat Miami in the national championship. So that's the kind of team those are the kind of players that this team was composed of this past season. And really just crazy the amount of guys that were able to go from basically being guys that never would have even sniffed the NFL to multiple guys off this Indiana team getting drafted, like I said earlier. So D'Angelo Pons is one of them. Very quick driving off the ball. He's quick out of his breaks. He drives on the ball very well. And he's also a instinctive player. He has very good awareness, and he has very good instincts when the ball's in the air. You can see it, when you watch him play, that he is always around the football. He's never giving his guy too much cushion, too much space to make a play. He's always right there, ready to make a play on the ball. So a lot of people like this pick as well because, like I said, he's going to the New York Jets. The New York Jets are in desperate need of help in their secondary. New York Jets did something unprecedented last season. They got exactly 0 interceptions all year long. They got 0 interceptions. So yeah, that's pretty unheard of. I mean, especially during a time where we now have 18-week seasons. So you're playing 17 games and not one singular play during the 17 games you played, you didn't get 1 interception. So that is the state of the New York Jets secondary right now. So obviously they need all the help they can get, which is why they are attacking this position early. And a lot of people like D'Angelo Pons because he reminds some people of their head coach, who is Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, the head coach of the New York Jets, is a former NFL cornerback himself, and he also played for the Jets when he was a player. So he played for the Jets. He's now a coach for the Jets, and now here's a guy that basically matches up with him very well. Like I said, D'Angelo Ponds is 5'8". Aaron Glenn is a small 5'9" guy. They're about the same size. Both of them played for the Jets, and Aaron Glenn played like how D'Angelo Ponds plays. Just a very sticky player. He sticks to the receiver, and he's always ready to make a play on the ball, and very dynamic as well. I mean, when it comes to the interceptions and things like that. So I didn't mention it earlier, D'Angelo Ponds made one of the biggest plays during the college football playoff this past season. And the semifinal win against Oregon before they made it to the national championship, on the very first play of the game against Oregon, D'Angelo Ponds, basically, you could tell that he was watching film. It was one of those film, like, okay, you saw the film, you saw the play coming, and he made a jump. He jumped the ball so clean and so smoothly and picked it off, pick 6 on the first play, takes it all the way back to the house. First play of the game. That's how the semifinal Peach Bowl started against Oregon, and then they end up winning by like 40 points. It was like 50-something to 15. That was the final score. So the way that D'Angelo Ponds started that game off, and then it was just all uphill from there for Indiana. So this is the kind of guy that this is the kind of player that this guy is. He is going to be that game-changing player in the secondary, and you always have to watch out for him. Most teams did not want to throw to his side of the ball this season, which is crazy because this guy's only 5'8", but yet usually he was matched up against the other team's best receiver. Against Ohio State, he was matched up against Jeremiah Smith, who most college football fans know is one of the best players in college football, if not the best. And he's like 6'4". He's like 6'4", 230. He's just a mountain of a man. And D'Angelo Ponds at 5'8", 182, literally smaller than me. I'm about 5'10", 180, 190. So this guy's smaller than me, but yet was shutting down guys like Jeremiah Smith all season long. So if this guy can't play on Sundays, then nobody can. So shout out to D'Angelo Ponds for going to the New York Jets in the second round, the 18th pick of the second round to the New York Jets. All right, moving on to the second draft steal of this video. We have,
with the 47th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select
Jeremy Bernard, Alabama.
Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver out of Alabama, who goes in the second round, pick number 15 of the second round. He goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Pittsburgh, I've been talking a lot about how the Steelers cannot figure out the quarterback position to save their life. That is true. But if there is one position that the Pittsburgh Steelers know how to figure out, that is the wide receiver position. They know how to find a wide receiver. The Steelers always seem to have a knack for picking really good receivers in the draft, and they go ahead and take another one here. And Jeremy Bernard was probably the best receiver on Alabama's team for this past year or two. Very dynamic player. He's the kind of guy that has he has that game-changing speed. Like he's very fast in general, but that game-changing speed, he's even faster on film. Like this guy, if he gets the ball in his hands in space, watch out. He's one of those guys that you don't want him to have the ball in his hands in space because he's going to make you pay. Very agile. Like I said, he's not the fastest guy, but like he's very quick. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he knows what to do with it. Like he's the kind of guy that they were handing the ball off to him. Like they had him in the backfield on plays, and they were like handing the ball off to him like a running back, and he was able to make things happen. So very dynamic with the ball in his hands, precise route runner as well. Very good in and out of his breaks, and he shows up on film. Like he shows up. He's the kind of guy where when Alabama was in a rut, and they sometimes during this past season, the Alabama offense was having a tough time getting going, they looked towards Bernard. Bernard was that guy he was the flash. He was the flash in the pot. You know what I mean? He was the guy that was going to make things happen and get things rolling. So 6'1", 206 coming out of Alabama. Obviously, Alabama is known for their wide receiver talent. They have a long line of good receivers coming out of Alabama, Julio Jones and all those kind of guys. So Jeremy Bernard should be the next one in line in a long line of Alabama wide receiver royalty. Now, looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver room, Pittsburgh is looking decent right now, as they usually are, especially after they got Michael Pittman Jr. over from the Colts in the offseason. That was a huge pickup. So they got DK Metcalf, of course, coming over from the Seahawks a couple years ago. And then they got Michael Pittman, so that's your wide receiver 1 and 2 right there. That's probably one of the best 1 and 2 wide receiver combinations in the league right there. Just those two guys. And then in the slot, you have Roman Wilson, who's been a very good guy coming out of Michigan. few years ago. And now you have Jeremy Bernard coming into the fold, probably going to be a slot guy as well. So the Steelers should have some very good talent on the outside once again. They kind of fell off the past couple seasons, especially with guys like, Antonio Brown and George Pickens leaving the room, leaving the franchise in the past several years. But they always seem to be able to replace it pretty well, and it looks like they will do that as well this season. So Michael Pittman Jr. and Jeremy Bernard should be very good additions to the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. And Mr. Bernard goes in the second round, pick number 15 in the second round to the Steelers. The next player we're talking about is also a receiver. His name is Malachi Fields, coming out of Notre Dame, 6'4", 218. This is a big, long-bodied receiver. He is the kind of guy that is going to be that jump ball receiver. He loves those corner fade jump routes, those fade balls that, you throw to the sideline and he just goes up and gets it. That was like his specialty. So he's that kind of guy that you're going to throw to the back of the end zone. When you're in the red zone, you're going to find him in the back of the end zone, and he's going to get that. He's going to go up high, get the ball at the highest point, and come down with it, 2 feet in bounds and whatnot. So this guy is very efficient. C.J. Carr, the quarterback for Notre Dame, looked to him a lot this past season. He was one of his favorite targets, and he was a big reason for Notre Dame's success this past season. So Malachi Fields goes to New York, and the New York Giants are needing a little bit of help in the wide receiver room. They got some guys in there. Of course, Malik Neighbors leading the way. They got Darius Slayton and Darnell Mooney, who are pretty good tier B receivers, I would say. Got Calvin Austin III as well, who's been a pretty good receiver, young guy. But not a lot of superstar talent in here except for Malik Neighbors, who stands out. So nothing wrong with picking up another receiver. Malachi Fields should fit into this wide receiver room very well, and I think he might actually end up being one of their go-to guys as the season goes on. He's a really talented receiver, and with Malik Neighbors, because Malik Neighbors is that good that he's the kind of guy that defenses are going to double team at times. So when Malik Neighbors gets a little bit more attention, then Malachi Fields can open it up on the other side. So big guy. He's going to be a threat deep down the field on those jump balls, like I said. So watch out for Malachi Fields. Going to the New York Giants, the 10th pick of the third round goes in the third round to the New York Giants. All right, the next guy we're going to talk about is going to be a pretty fun guy to talk about. We got Michael Taft, a safety out of Texas, 5'11", 190. And yes, he is Caucasian out of Texas. So Texas is boasting a lot of draft picks coming off their defense in this draft. We talked about the corner coming out of Texas earlier, going to the Bears, Malik Muhammad. And one of his teammates on that defense, Michael Taft, who also was a very good defensive back for the Longhorns these past few years, goes in the 5th round, pick number 18 of the 5th round to the Miami Dolphins. So the Miami Dolphins had a busy draft. They're looking for basically the next generation. They're basically starting all over. Miami blew up their team over the offseason. They released all their top players, and they basically cleaned house. So they're looking to have guys that are going to be starters for them in the future. So they get Michael Taft, who was a very good safety for Texas, a ball hawk as well as Malik Muhammad was, always around the ball. This guy was making plays, and he was also a walk-on. So shout out to him for being a walk-on at Texas and then being good enough to get drafted in the NFL, a few years later. So obviously this guy was meant to play at this level despite having to be a walk-on. He's very good in run support as well. He loves to come near the box and use his quickness to blow up plays behind the ball, behind the line of scrimmage. So very high energy player who shows up around the ball, like I said. Multiple interceptions for him in his career. And he is going to Miami, which Miami is in dire need of some defensive back help after basically cleaning house, like I said, and they were not very good in that area anyway. So he's going to fit in well. I believe this guy is going to be a starter. By the end of the year, he's going to be a starter for Miami. And I want to talk about Michael Taft. It's funny because Michael Taft is a white boy. He's a white guy. And I was curious because when I saw him, I was like, I wonder how many white defensive backs are in the NFL now. Because, we have a couple of them. They've kind of resurrected a little bit. The white defensive back was a dying breed for a long time. And then, with the recent guys like Cooper DeJean for the Eagles and Riley Moss for the Broncos and Reed Blankenship, who also played for the Eagles, who just moved over to the Texans. Those were the only 3 guys that were in the NFL that were Caucasian defensive backs. I was also thinking about Harrison Smith. I looked up Harrison Smith, but Harrison Smith is not currently on a team. So I guess technically he doesn't count. So with Michael Taft being drafted to the Dolphins, he is now only the fourth white boy defensive back in the NFL. So he is joining a very exclusive group in the NFL nowadays. So shout out to Mr. Michael Taft going to the Dolphins in the 5th round. All right, moving on to the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints take Lorenzo Styles Jr. in the 5th round, the 32nd pick of the 5th round. So, Mr. Lorenzo Styles Jr., 6 foot, 194, coming out of Ohio State. Obviously, his brother, Mr. Sonny Styles, was taken in the 1st round to the Commanders, a very highly ranked linebacker coming out of Ohio State. The brothers were teammates for the past year or two at Ohio State, and both of them get drafted. Obviously, the first brother got drafted very early. The next brother had to wait a couple days to hear his name, but both brothers are going to the NFL. Lorenzo Styles Jr. is the son of Lorenzo Styles Sr., who was a former NFL player himself, a very good NFL player himself. He played for the Atlanta Falcons, and both of his sons are making the NFL, so proud dad right there. Lorenzo Styles Jr. is a safety, and he is a very fast safety, 4.27 40-yard dash. So very quick, lightning speed. Interesting for him, he actually started as a wide receiver at Notre Dame. He was at Notre Dame as a wide receiver and then transferred to Ohio State where they made him a safety. And obviously, I mean, maybe he would have got drafted as a receiver as well, but, he ends up getting drafted as a safety, so it works out for him. He's very good in run support. He sometimes struggles to make open field tackles, but he is a very good player on the ball, and he has exceptional closing speed as well. So this guy is looking to add to the Saints secondary. The New Orleans Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL, so obviously they're going to be in need of basically everything, and defense is a big part for them because the Saints are a team that likes to give up 30, 40 points every other week, so they're going to need guys on the back end to stop the bleeding. So Lorenzo Styles Jr., the son of Lorenzo Styles Sr. and the brother of Sonny Styles, goes in the 5th round to the New Orleans Saints. So fun fact for you, Lorenzo Styles and Sonny Styles are not the same age. Lorenzo Styles is actually like 2 years older, but somehow they ended up both getting drafted in the same year. So interesting to see with that. Obviously, we know college football has had a lot of interesting things going on with eligibility since COVID. So we got guys that have literally played like 8 years in college somehow. I don't even know. But, reasons like that. So, like Lorenzo Styles probably had an extra year or two with COVID and whatnot. So interesting to see that they both get drafted in the same draft, even though they're not the same age. Because when I was like, oh, brothers got drafted in the same year, they must be twins. Nope, they are not twins. So just wanted to say that. But the Saints get the older Styles brother in the 5th round. And last but not least, the last player I want to talk about for my New England Patriots, they get a draft steal as well. This time going in the 7th round, one of the last picks of the overall draft, Mr. Jam Miller. 5'10", 209, running back out of Alabama. Jam Miller was the premier running back for the Crimson Tide these past couple years. He actually was not as good as probably some of the guys that they had before. He was not as much of a game wrecker as, guys like Derrick Henry and, the TJ Yeldons and guys like that. But he is next in a long line of Alabama royalty at the running back position. I mean, we can just go through the names. I mean, starting with Shaun Alexander in 2000, you got Glenn Coffey, Mark Ingram Jr., Trent Richardson, Eddie Lacy, TJ Yeldon, Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, Brian Robinson Jr., Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So no surprise to see an Alabama running back get drafted. What's probably a surprise is that the Alabama running back got drafted in the 7th round. Usually when we see an Alabama running back, he's going very early. So Jam Miller may not be as highly ranked as some of the guys that came before him, some of his predecessors, but he ends up getting drafted as well, and he goes to a very good team in the New England Patriots, who already have a pretty good running back situation, especially with them drafting Travion Henderson out of Ohio State last year, the running back who was one of the best rookies in the NFL this past year. And then they already had Ramondre Stevenson, who's a very solid running back when he's not fumbling the ball. So Jam Miller is joining a very good running back room already. He should be a great third-string running back for them. And this guy's also huge. I don't know if you've seen pictures of him online, but he's also huge. He is swole. His arms are like as big as watermelons. So, this guy he's built for the NFL. Very tough runner. He gets vertical up and down the field. He doesn't like to mess around too much. He's tough. He's very strong, like I said, and he has good contact balance. So shout out to Jam Miller. I hope he makes the Patriots roster. I'm looking forward to him being on our team. And if he becomes a good running back in the NFL, he's going to be a super big draft steal because he's literally one of the last picks of the entire draft. So going in the 7th round, the 29th pick of the 7th round to the New England Patriots, Jam Miller, the running back out of Alabama. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Draft Steals and Hidden Gems. We will have one more of the part 5 of this series coming out very soon. So tune in for that and tune in for more content from the S&T Football Podcast.